Imagine a mother's love. Now imagine that love being devoured by the cold, hard gold of a crown. In the year 797, in the heart of the Byzantine Empire, a woman did the unthinkable. In the very room where she had given him life, she ordered her soldiers to take his sight. She didn't just want to rule, she wanted to be the only one left standing. This is the story of Irene of Athens, the orphan who became an empress, the saint who became a monster, and the woman who would rather blind her own flesh and blood than surrender the throne.
To understand how a mother could reach such a point of cold-blooded calculation, we have to go back to the beginning, to the dusty streets of Athens in the mid-8th century. At this time, Athens was not the glorious center of philosophy it once had been. It was a provincial backwater of the Byzantine Empire. Irene was born there around 752. She was an orphan, raised by her uncle, a local noble. By all accounts, she was a woman of extraordinary beauty and even more extraordinary intelligence.
Her life changed forever because of a tradition known as the bride show. The Byzantine emperors often selected their wives by summoning the most beautiful and well-bred girls from across the empire to the capital, Constantinople. It was a literal beauty pageant for the fate of the throne. Irene was chosen. In 769, she was sailed across the Aegean Sea to the Great Palace, a sprawling complex of gold, marble, and intrigue. She was to marry Leo IV, the heir to the throne. When Irene entered the palace, she entered a world divided by a brutal religious conflict, iconoclasm. The empire was torn between those who believed religious icons were idols that should be destroyed, and those, like Irene, who secretly venerated them. This wasn't just a religious debate, it was a political war. Her father-in-law, Emperor Constantine V, was a fierce iconoclast. Irene had to hide her true beliefs, moving through the shadows of the palace, learning the art of the secret and the sting of the lie.
In 775, her husband, Leo, became emperor. Irene was now the empress consort. But Leo was a sickly man, and his reign was short. When he died in 780, he left behind a 9-year-old son, Constantine VI. Traditionally, a regency would be formed, but Irene was not a woman who shared power. She maneuvered herself into the position of regent, effectively becoming the ruler of the Byzantine world.
The court was horrified. A woman ruling the Roman Empire? It was unheard of. Plots immediately began to swirl around her. Her husband's half-brothers, the Caesars, conspired to take the throne. Irene didn't hesitate. She crushed the rebellion, forced the brothers into the priesthood, and made them perform the Eucharist on Christmas Day in the Hagia Sophia to prove they were no longer eligible for the crown. It was a masterclass in political humiliation.
For 10 years, Irene ruled with an iron fist wrapped in silk. Her greatest achievement during this period was the restoration of icons. In 787, she convened the Second Council of Nicaea. It was a monumental shift that ended decades of religious civil war. By bringing back the icons, she secured the loyalty of the monks and the common people. She was seen as a savior of the faith, a second Helena. But as she secured her legacy with God, her relationship with her son was rotting.
Constantine VI was growing up. He was no longer a boy to be managed. He was a young man who wanted his birthright. He resented his mother's control. He resented the fact that she kept him confined to the palace while she made the decisions of state. The tension reached a breaking point in 790. Irene, sensing his defiance, demanded that the army take an oath of loyalty to her first and her son second.
The army, particularly the units in Asia Minor who were still loyal iconoclasts, refused. They revolted, declaring Constantine the sole ruler. Irene was pushed aside. She was confined to her palace in the city, stripped of her titles. It seemed her reign was over. But Constantine was not his mother. He was a weak, indecisive leader. He suffered military defeats against the Bulgars and the Arabs. He alienated his supporters. Within 2 years, Constantine realized he couldn't rule without her administrative genius. In a move that would prove fatal, he invited his mother back to court. Irene returned, smiling, bowing, and secretly sharpening her knife.
She spent the next few years quietly undermining him. She encouraged his worst impulses. When Constantine decided to divorce his wife and marry his mistress, it caused a massive scandal. Irene encouraged this, knowing it would destroy his reputation with the church.
By 797, Constantine was isolated and hated. He fled the capital, sensing a conspiracy, but his mother's agents were everywhere. They captured him across the Bosphorus and brought him back to Constantinople. Irene was waiting.
She didn't just want him imprisoned, she wanted him disqualified from ever ruling again. In Byzantine tradition, a blind man could not be emperor. On August 15, 797, the soldiers entered the Porphyra, the purple chamber where Constantine had been born. They pinned the emperor down. With a hot iron or a dagger, they gouged out his eyes. The chroniclers of the time say the sun was eclipsed for 17 days afterward, as if the very heavens were horrified by the act.
Irene was now the sole ruler of the Roman Empire. She didn't take the title of empress, she took the title of basileus, the male word for emperor. She sat on the throne of the Caesars, the first woman in history to rule the Romans in her own right. Her reign was one of immense luxury and massive tax cuts, designed to keep the populace happy and ignore the blood on her hands.
But her power had a catastrophic side effect. In Rome, Pope Leo III looked at the throne in Constantinople and saw it as vacant. In his eyes, a woman could not be emperor. This gave him the excuse he needed to crown a new leader in the West. On Christmas Day, 800 AD, he crowned Charlemagne as the Holy Roman Emperor. It was a direct insult to Irene and a permanent schism between East and West. The Roman world was officially fractured, and it was Irene's ambition that had provided the crack. Irene even considered a marriage proposal from Charlemagne, a union that would have united the entire European continent under one throne. But the Byzantine nobility could not stomach the idea of a barbarian king ruling from Constantinople. The end came quickly. In 802, while Irene was weakened by illness, her finance minister, Nikephoros, led a palace coup.
Irene was deposed. She expected to be executed, but Nikephoros was more subtle. He exiled her to the island of Lesbos. There, the woman who had once commanded the most powerful empire on earth, who had sat on a throne of gold and ivory, was forced to support herself by spinning wool. She died a year later, alone, in 803.
The legacy of Irene of Athens is one of the most complex in history. To the Orthodox Church, she is a saint, the woman who restored the holy icons and saved the faith. To historians, she is a ruthless Machiavellian who crippled the prestige of the Byzantine Empire and maimed her own child to satisfy her ego. She was a woman of immense contradictions, pious yet murderous, brilliant yet blinded by her own ambition. She proved that a woman could rule as effectively and as cruelly as any man. In the end, Irene of Athens didn't just want to be part of history. She wanted to own it, no matter the cost. Subscribe for more history.